Hi there guys, what's going on? So today I wanted to talk about resistance bands. Are they pointless or not? So I think resistance bands can be very useful in some aspects. If you're doing powerlifting, for example, it can always be used to make these sessions harder and to implement some training techniques here and there. But today I'm talking about resistance bands at home, for example, during a lockdown. Are you gonna save your gains using resistance bands? And I just want to put here a meme that I've seen on the internet, and this kind of sums up what I think. I do not think that you can really get away with resistant bands at home, and I'm going to explain you why. So surely resistant bands can give you a good pump, but like I said in another video, the pump isn't really something reliable to grow muscle. And here the issue with bands is that yes, you can maybe make it a bit harder with the bands, but it's still not enough. And as well, resistant bands, you can't really scale up the weight with it. So for example, if you're using dumbbells, you can always start from 2 kg to 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, etc. up to 50s. With a resistant band, you have just one or two levels, one where it's completely loose and another one where you bend it in two and it gets a bit harder, and maybe in three. And but that's it. You can't really go higher than this. The resistant band is a resistant band. Maybe you can even buy two resistant bands and put them together so it's even harder. But literally, you can't really measure and go up at a certain point. You're gonna be stuck with the resistant band. So you can't really improve resistant bands on the long term. Now, of course, if you're using them at home, this can always be something useful if it's a period that is not too long. But on the long term, in the long term, you're gonna lose muscle if you use resistant bands instead of real weights. So if you're, in this case of a lockdown that we're living these days, well, you can't use resistant bands for 4 months without thinking that you're gonna lose some muscle. Of course, you can do some other type of work. You can work on your weaknesses, on muscle that are not responsive. Try to pump it there to learn how to feel the muscles that you don't feel very well most of the time. But I'm talking about putting on muscle. Middle term, long term resistant bands are just not something that will do. Also, the issue with resistant bands is that it's not very comfortable movement that you're doing there. So what I mean by this is, as soon as it gets more complicated, the level of the resistant bands, when you decide to bend it in two to make it harder, well, it's not a very smooth movement. So for example, if you're doing curls, it's usually a bit hard at the beginning, and then as you go up, it gets really easy. And this is just because the resistant bands is like this. It's harder at the beginning of the movement than it is at the end, and so it doesn't make the movement really smooth. So this is also pretty uncomfortable. So this was my opinion about resistant bands. I don't think you should rely on this to build muscle at home, and I don't think this is the best thing to do to keep your gains at home if you have to train at home during the lockdown. So what I would suggest you is actually to buy some sort of equipment, and I will talk about this in another video, how to build a home gym for not expensive, and I hope you will enjoy it. So that was my opinion about resistant bands. That's better than nothing, I'll agree with that, but long term, building muscle with it, not too good. Alright guys, take care of yourself, see you next time.